Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this week's training we're going to show you how to create a never seen before drag and drop dashboard, where I'm going to teach you how you can drag and drop shapes completely click free into any dashboard. In fact, we're even going to do that on a scheduler as well. It's going to be an incredible training you won't want to miss, so let's get started. All right, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all your continued support. Another brand new and unique training, including drag and drop. Now, drag and drop is something that we've covered before, but we've never covered it like this. In fact, we're going to be able to drag and drop shapes completely without having to click anything else. It's going to automatically reposition. All you need to do is drag your shapes, and that can be anything from dashboards to schedulers. In fact, I've got a bonus during this training. I'm going to show you how you can apply this exact type of drag and drop to any scheduler, including a previously task scheduler that we covered a few weeks ago. I'm going to show you how to make that fully automatic on drag and drop too. So make sure you watch this entire training because it's going to be packed full of brand new tricks, techniques, and tips you won't want to miss, and you'll be able to apply that right away in your own applications. I really do appreciate you paying attention to us, checking in each and every week. I was out a few weeks, but focused on marketing aspects so that I can bring you even more value each and every week. So I was here working hard. I really appreciate those who emailed me and say, "Are you okay?" Sure, I'm doing great, working hard, staying healthy, and focused on bringing you value each and every week. And if you do want to get this value each and every week, I bring it to you free. All I ask that you do is just three simple things. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and put your comment below. I reply to each and every single comment. I always love to hear your constructive criticism, comments, likes, or suggestions about next video or future videos. I take it all into consideration because it is your comments, it is your continued support that helps keep these videos for free. All right, let's get to it. I really want to focus on this amazing application. It is not a difficult, it's not going to take forever. This is not going to be one of those extra long lessons. We're going to be able to complete this relatively simple. I've done a little bit of work before on just have some data. I've got some invoice data. I've got some income and expense data here, and a bunch of data that's just going to help us on this application. So I've got some preloaded data that's going to help us because we're going to be focused on a drag and drop dashboard, not necessarily the data. So I'm going to keep that simple and try to keep these as short as they can, but they're still going to be long, probably 45 minutes, an hour. Let's see how it goes. I try to keep them close to an hour. The last training was over 3 hours. That was an incredible restaurant application for our point of sale touchscreen. All right, so we've got a lot to cover. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I now have a 150 application zip file. If you want to get the best 150 applications that I've done the last 3 years, all you got to do is click the link below and I'll get you that 150 zip application. It's just now $56. I think it's on sale. That's less than 37 cents per application. So you won't want to miss that. I really appreciate that. Helps keep these videos free. All right, let's get started on the training because we've got a lot to cover and I don't want to make this too long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep these first, let's say 3 columns in this case for admin. So we're going to focus on, let's say D through P, and these are the focus. This will be the main focus of the application. It's going to be a very, very, very simple type of screen. We're not going to focus a lot on the visual part of it because I really want to focus on the drag and drop, because this type of drag and drop you're going to be able to pretty much apply to any kind of an application. It is actually relatively easy. I scoured the internet, still couldn't find a solution, so I created one just for you guys. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a fade effect, something very simple, and we'll bring in just some basic. It's going to be a very basic screen. I don't want to cover too much in it because I want to focus on the value and the macros that make this thing work. So of course we'll just add a little bit of a fade effect here just to give it some kind of a nice background for our dashboard. And what I'm going to be creating is 4 actually dynamic tiles, if you will, let's just say column. So it's going to be basically a dynamic drag and drop dashboard. 4 Ds I've managed to squeeze in there in this title. So it's going to be really great. Okay, so basically what I want to do is I want to create like 4 tiles. And those are like, let's say living tiles, or let's just say they're shapes, but they're going to change based on the data enter. In fact, we're going to be actually building out this area here where I've got some pre-graphs and things like that. So what I want to do is basically create some tiles for these reports here. They're going to be based on, so we got expenses, income, and invoice. And as we put in the dates and formulas, I've already done a little bit of work because I want to to make it go a little bit quicker, and I'm going to focus really on the drag and drop feature. So we're going to take care of that. Let's do that. First, let's just put it a little bit small. Basically, what I want to have is a date range here and here, perhaps on row 3, so that users can then actually change that date range. So let's just put in from, and then put a date, and then to, and then a date here. So we'll color these a little bit differently because I want to make sure that we can put in a date range for our dashboard here. It's going to be a very basic dashboard. You can add date ranges. You can add a lot of things to this to make it more dynamic, of course, but we'll just do the basics and focus on the special characteristics of this training, which is that drag and drop. And that way we don't run into the weeds and create something. Okay, so we've got that. We got our basic, and let's give it a title here. We're going to call this drag and drop dashboard. And I've got a little bit of an icon. Let's go ahead and insert an icon. Let's insert an icon. I've got just one saved here. That'll cover it. Okay, bring it down. So basically what we want to do is, like I said, is create these 4 live tiles. And I call them live tiles because they're going to change as the data changes, or as the date changes. They're going to change automatically, and that's what makes them dynamic. And I want them to appear, I want to have 4 of them. One to appear here, one here, and one here, and one here. And they're all the same size. And I want the user to be able to move them around, drag and drop. We'll create a basic sample, but in your particular dashboards, you can create very comprehensive tiles, very comprehensive shapes that you can have as many as you want. You can drag and drop and move them around as you wish. And of course, this does require some information that we're going to need to pull. Like I want to select on a specific shape, and I want to know what that shape is. So let's put that in here, shape, and I want that to show up in B1. And then I want to know the left position of that shape, and I want to know the top position of that shape as well. And I also want to know what the top left cell is. Like I really want to know, like if they select on a shape, I want to know that in this case, maybe it's H5 or something like that. So, or G5 or whatever it is, I want to know what it is. So I'll probably have the shape extend here and then one here, something like that. So let's do that. Let's add in something for the selected top left cell. I want a specific cell there. And I also want to know the position of the row. I want to know the position row, what row that is. That's important. Also, in fact, I'm going to be creating 4 different shapes, and I want to create kind of like a table, or let's just say a range of information based on that. So let's do that here. I want to know upper left. What's in the upper left? And I want to give it a shape. Let's just say shape 1. And let's say the upper left is going to be G5. That means the upper left, G5 right here, that's where I want the upper left of our first shape or first tile is going to appear. Then again, I want the upper right. And what we'll just temporarily put in shape 2. Of course, these shapes are going to change, right? Shape 2, these shapes are going to change as the user drags and drops. So that's going to be J5. J5 is going to be the upper right. I'll put that up here. So I want it to appear right up here. What about the other one? I want a lower left. Lower left, and we'll call that shape 3. That's going to change. The shape in each section will change, of course, but that's fine. And let's put down in right around G12. And then, of course, one more. We're going to put in lower right, as you can probably guess. And we'll put in shape 4. And we're going to put that in J12. This is not a very difficult training. The macros are not very difficult. It's actually relatively easy. So let's color that so we can distinctly show this particular group differently than others. Okay, and give it some borders. And then I also want to do the same thing here for our information. That's about all the information that we're going to require on this particular admin section. Of course, you're going to hide these columns here. You'll hide this. So it's no problem. End users won't see them. Okay, so what do I want? I want to have a date. Let's just say 1/1/2020, and let's just end this at, let's say, 12/31/2020. I've already formatted those. Notice that. And we can bring these to the left. Okay, so what do I want to happen? So basically, I've got some named ranges. And what I want to do is I want to create some information based on those name ranges. Let's just take a look at some of the name ranges. They're going to help you familiarize. I've just done some name ranges, so let's go into the formulas and name manager and take a look at some of these name ranges. I have here this is the invoice, so we have invoice. Here we've got an invoice balance here based on the balances of the invoice here, which is located here. Let's bring this over here. Invoice balance here, and these are offset. And all these name ranges I'm using offset, and that means it's dynamic. And remember, we always want to start out with the header row, right? If there's no data, this is going to prevent an error with this named range. However, when we include the header, in this being row 2, H2, when we include that header and then we offset that row by 1, offsetting the row by 1, it then will not create an error when you have no data. And then we're going to skip 2, and then we're going to count A. And we're going to do the same thing for the count. In fact, we're going to count. Why are we counting A? Because column A contains our invoice number, and it's always going to have an invoice number. So we always want to count the column that always contains data. In this case, it's invoice number. And of course, since we're including the header in this, notice it's A2. Since we're including the header, we also have to subtract 1 from that total count, because we don't want to include the header when we're counting it, but we do want to include the header when we're determining the range. Okay, and then of course we just want focus on one column. We're going to do that same offset for whether it's invoice commissioned earned, although we're not really using that too much. Invoice customer type, invoice date, that we're going to use. Some of these we're not using so much, but I wanted to provide a comprehensive list for you, and the invoice amount, so that you can create your own and see how it's done. And then the payments. I also have transactions. We have a table of transactions, and if we look, we've got a transaction account. We have transaction date here, also located, right? If we scroll up, we're going to see this. So, and basically we have a transaction type. Now the transaction type could be income, cost of goods sold, expenses. So this is very, very similar to what you would find in any type of accounting application. This is a real world data that you can use in your own applications for testing out. So you're welcome to use that. But I wanted to make sure that we had a real world sample of a possible dashboard that you could use in your applications, whether you're creating them for a single customer or whether you're creating applications to sell in the marketplace. In fact, if you want to sell your own applications on the marketplace, the Excel for Freelancers mentorship program is the program to be in, because in that program I'm going to show you exactly how to create applications that you can sell on the marketplace for passive income. We're going to take you through every step, whether you're defining your own applications or whether you're designing them, and all the way up to the development and even the deployment phase. I'm going to cover all of that inside the mentorship program. Make sure you visit myexcelmentor.com for all the details. Of course, you can always email me if you have any questions or comment below. Okay, and why is this data going to be helpful? Well, because we've already created some dashboard information that's going to help us. If we slide over here, I've already created some graphs and tables that are going to help us. I'm really slow in creating these, so I don't want to have you painstakingly watch me create these. But basically, all I've done is taken these basic bar, horizontal bar. If you can see the type of design and layout here. So they're just basic horizontal bars, and they're based on the data here, whether it's the total income. So let's just get into this real quick so I can basically show you. And they're all based on this. So if we take a look at this, I've done this is called from date. I've created a named range on this already. That was pre-done based on cell H3. And this is called to date. Just some named ranges helping us with these two dates. So what we want to do is want to filter data based on these dates. And so when I bring it over into this, we see that we have our total sum. Basically, this is total cash flow. And what is that here? That's just going to use some ifs. And all we're going to be basing on is the transaction amount. I already went over that named range. Based on the transaction date, has to be greater than or equal to the from date. Or the transaction, or I should say and the transaction date has to be less than or equal to the to date. The transaction type would be income, right? Because I want to know the income minus what? So that's every transaction type minus income. So this is a great way to figure out your cash flow. All your income minus the cost of goods sold and minus the expenses. Remember, we've got transaction types and they're either one. So when we have income expenses, we have expenses, cost of goods sold, and income. So really three types. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the income here, sum it up based on the date, using this transaction date if it falls within that, and then I'm going to subtract out all the sum of the cost of goods sold based on those dates and all the expenses based on those dates. It's basically it's income minus expenses, and not really different. And that's where we're going to get that. So then we're going to sum if, and then in this case the only difference is expenses, and we're going to add into that all of the cost of goods sold here. So again, we're looking at all the income minus the cost of goods sold minus the expenses based on those dates. That's all that this big formula does. Income minus cost of goods sold minus, and it's just based on those dates. So that's how we get the total cash flow for the period. And notice if we change the dates, our period is going to change. Then I just want to know all the income, and based on right here in cell U7. And so all that we need to do is just determine the transaction, again, greater than the from date, less than the to date, and then everything with a transaction type. Income, expenses would be the combination of the expenses and the cost of goods sold. The combination meaning the sum if, the total, in this case expenses, those items with expensive, plus the cost of goods sold. That's going to get us our total expenses. So now, then all I've done is created a graph based on that, based on what percentage of this. In fact, we got 235 in expenses. We have income of 259. The difference, of course, is 23,815. So that's going to give us a difference and give us an idea of where our cash flow is right here. Expenses, pretty much the same thing. We're just drilling down into the expenses, the total expenses. Again, same thing here, except we're expanding on the expenses here. What are our total expenses? And it's just based on information on this table here. Again, all we're doing, again, is just basically summarizing based on this. This particular training, we're not going to focus too much on this because I really want to get to the drag and drop, but I just want to give you an idea of how I came up with the totals. Again, invoice, all we're doing is totaling up the invoice amounts based on the from and to date, and then we're getting the total paid based on those two dates and the total outstanding. So what I've done is I've been able to summarize everything here based on that. So what I want to do now is create a shape based on this data, a dynamic, basically you could say picture based on this data, and then that picture is going to be used as tiles or basically shapes inside our dashboard here. How is that going to look? Well, let's just take a look at that. Using our camera tool, we can do that. That's going to help us. We don't really need to be accurate. Camera tool, if you don't have it here, you probably don't, because I have it. So let's just go ahead and show you how you can get it into the more commands, right? What you want to do is go into the all commands and then scroll down here and look for cameras. But yours will be right here. All you need to do is just scroll up to the camera tool, look for it here. It'll be right in here, camera, and then just go ahead and add it there. And that's going to add your camera tool. What does that do? It takes a picture and allows that picture to create a dynamic shape, but not just any picture, a picture that changes as the data changes inside. How do we do that? We click on the camera tool and then we just click on our cells, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Notice it's not, all we need to do, notice it's not accurate for the specific shape, but that's okay. All I need to do is just change this range to the exact range that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, this is the range that I want right here, U5 to U10. So hit enter and notice that our picture changes. This is going to be our shape 1. I like it, but I'm going to make a few changes to that. I just want a little bit of a border and a little bit, I want a color of a border. Let's color this border a little bit light and maybe more outline colors. And I don't want it transparency. Let's just set a little bit lighter color here. And I also want a nice picture effect, maybe a shadow. So let's put a shadow on that. That looks nice, right? That's what I like. I like that. And maybe just slightly thicker borders. So you can change the border here. You can change the weight of the border here, just a little bit thicker of a border. That looks nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that shape 1. Shape 1. Okay, and I'm going to basically repeat the process for all 3 except easier, and I'm going to place that right about here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control D, duplicate that, move it over here, and I'm going to call this shape 2. Now we don't want 2 different shapes with the exact same, so let's update the formulas in that picture. What do we want to do? Let's call it this one. So I'm going to clear out the current formula here, and then I'm just going to highlight whatever cells that I want, and we're going to call it right here. Make sure that they're all about the same size. We're going to include 6 rows here, so that's fine, and just hit enter. And if we take a look at that picture, that's exactly what I want. Now all we need to do is duplicate that twice. Duplicate it, update the formulas. In this case, this formula is going to be that income down there, so I'm going to move it over here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the 6 rows here and then hit enter. Same thing with this one. Control D, duplicate that, highlight the formula. You see how quick and easy this is? Sure, once we have the data in here, it takes a little time to put this. I didn't want you to have to spend the time watching me. It takes me too much time to put this in. So, okay, and that way we can focus on our, all right, it looks pretty good. Not perfect, but it's good. And we got to call this, we need to update the names here. That's very important. So this becomes shape 3. And this becomes shape 4. Now we can put them in place, but it's not that important right now. Shape 4. Okay, now that we've created all our shape, we'll put in shape 3 down here and then shape 4 down here. So basically, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? Well, I want to be able to select on a specific shape, drag it over here, and have whatever the shape that's already here, I want it to move over here. I want to place these, I want to do that automatically within just a few seconds or a second, right? So basically, if I move this shape here, I want this shape to come up here. That's what I want to happen automatically. All right, let's make sure these shapes all have the same exact dimensions. In fact, I'm going to put this, I want them the same as the column. Well, that's not necessary, but I do want them to all have the same dimensions. Let's call that, see that, let's put it at, let's put them all at about 1.5 and then 2.8. 1.5, so I'll select them all, make sure they're all the same. And make sure, in fact, let me just update them. We don't want to lock the aspect ratio because I want to set my own aspect ratio. And then 2.8. Okay, now they're all the same. That's the way I like it. I want to make sure they're all the same. We'll save our work. And okay, we can continue. So what do we want to happen? Here's the first thing that I want to happen. When I select on a shape, I want the information on the shape I selected. What do I want? I want the shape name. In fact, let's just put shape name here. I want a shape name and I want to put that in B1. I want its left position. I want its top position. I also want the selected top left cell. Like for example, if I select this shape, that top left cell is going to be let's put G5, right? G5. I want G5 to be there. And I also want the position row. What row are we on? Is it 9 or 10? So I want the position row. What does that mean, position row? I want to know what position it is. Is it 9, 10, 11, or 12? It's going to be one of these rows. So based on the name, right, I can know the position row using an index match. For example, if I've selected shape 1, we know that's row 9. How do we know that? I want to get that row, know the row. So how do we do that? Well, in this case, actually shape, I was doing some testing and then I messed up the order, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be messed up anyways. Shape 2, shape 3, and shape 4. Okay, so that was from testing. Okay, so we have all of our shapes. So shape 1, shape 1, of course, will be row 9. So how do we get that? Well, that's just a real simple match formula that we can use. So we'll wrap it in equals if error, just in case, match. What are we matching? I'm going to look up shape 1. And where am I going to look it up? I'm going to look it up right here. Okay, and then what do I want? I want an exact match, so it's going to be 0. But I don't want, if shape 1 is found, I don't want 1 returned. I want the row returned. In this case, it's row 9. So what do we need to do? We just need to add 8. So plus 8, and then comma in case there's an error, double quotes. Okay, so that's what I want, 9. And if I change this, of course, to shape 3, it's going to return 11. Okay, that's what I want. So I want to know that row. Okay, good. What else do I want to know? I want to know the selected top left cell. I want to know this cell. What is it? We're just going to use this. We're going to use an index. So I want to know what is the proper top left cell for the selected shape. In this case, we can use index match. So equals index. What are we indexing? I'm going to index this right here, these cells right here. And what's the row? The row, of course, is we're going to use that same match formula. We're looking up shape 3 in this case. Where are we going to look it up? I'm going to look it up within all these shapes. And what do I want to do? I want an exact match. Again, we have to add 8. Actually, we don't need to add 8 because we're indexing this time. We don't need to add 8. And what if it's column 1? So we're going to focus on the column 1. And I guess we should add if error. There's 2. G12 is what I want. Just in case, let's add if error. I always like if error in case there's any errors. And then double quote. So in case there's an error. Okay, that's what I want. So when this changes to shape 1, it's going to return G5 in row 9. So I want that information because I really want to know what the proper top left cell. Why do I want to know that? Well, in case they move it a little bit, I want it to snap back to the proper place. Okay, if they move it a lot, I want it to change. But if they move it just a little bit, I want it to snap back to G5. So if we know G5 and we know all the information, we can look up shape 1 and we know shape 1 is going to belong right here. Okay, so that's really easy. So the first thing we want to do is when a user selects something, I want something to happen. I want that information. I want the name to appear here in the top left, the left position, and the top position to appear here. So we can do that with a macro. So let's just get into that and show you exactly how we can do that. We can do that through the developer, or you can click Alt F11 to get you there. That's the shortcut. But if you don't have the developers tab, you can easily get it. Just go into the options, customize ribbon. Make sure you select on the developer. That is going to get you the developers ribbon. And once you're there, just click the Visual Basic and that's going to get you into it. All I have is a module. We don't need this here. That's nothing, not necessary. So module 1, we don't really have any on-sheet code. So we just have 2 macros that we're going to be creating today. Really simple, really amazing, but really powerful because you're going to be able to use drag and drop throughout every single application now. And it's really easy. So I can't wait. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Apply it on this scheduler here. This is the task schedule that we created just a few weeks ago, and I'm going to show you how to apply it to this. So stick with us because when I complete this training, I'm also going to show you how to do it on this task scheduler with just a few lines of code. All right, so what do we want to do? Well, the first thing is I want to write a macro for our selected. When we select a shape, we want some things to happen. So let's write a macro for that. Sub select shape. And what do we want to happen? Well, I want to make sure that If B1 is not empty, I want to clear out any type of shape that might have been here. Just in case there's any shape, I want to clear that out. So let's do that right now. We're going to focus on with sheet 1. With sheet 1, that's what we're going to focus on. First thing I want to do is add in the application color. I want to know that shape. What is it? That is the name of the shape that we click. So dot range B1 dot value equals application dot color. That's going to put the shape name inside the cell. Okay, what next in there? Next up, what I want the left position. So how do we get that? Again, now I want that in B2. Let's bring this down so we can see both what we're focused on here. We don't need all that space. So again, B2 is going to be the left position. So how do we do that? Dot range B2 dot value equals dot shapes. What is the shape? Application dot color. And we want the left position, dot left. I want the left position of that. Please like this video. Oh, is that the right? Oh, how did that get in there? Oh, well, if you like it, that would be great. Okay, so left position. Spell that right. Okay, dot range B3, of course, we're going to put in the top position. So you can probably figure out that. Equals dot shapes. Again, application, color, dot, in this case, top. I want that top position and located in B3. Okay, the last thing I really need for this is I want to select the shape. So that's pretty simple. Dot shapes. Again, all we need again is just the application color. I want to select it. So dot shapes, application color, dot select. And that's going to select it so that the user can then move it around. Selects shape. And then what I want to do is I'm going to run a macro, but I'm going to add a macro in here, but we don't have that macro yet. So let's just take a look at this. Now what we want to do is take this single macro and assign it to all 4 of our shapes. So I'm just going to hold down the control, click all 4 shapes, right click, and then assign the macro, and then again select shape. So now we've selected shape. So now every time I select a shape, we've got all the information up here. So as we select it, notice that everything changes based on that. So that's exactly what I want. All of our information is, and notice how the shape is selected. Now the user has freedom to move it. But of course, now what we need to do is we need to really get this particular inside the shape, inside. Oh, and also I also took away the, if you see in the view, and I've also taken away the grid lines. So just in case you didn't know that, originally we had grid lines. We don't need the grid lines here anymore, so I've just removed the grid lines, okay? So that's gonna help us. We don't really, if we have the grid lines, we don't really want them in our shapes. Notice that they show, we don't want that. So take away the grid lines and it gives a nice cleaner look. Okay, so when we select on the shape, what we want to do now, we need to figure out with another macro, where has the user moved it? If they have they moved it incrementally, and should we move it back into the right position? Or have they moved it all the way over to this quadrant or this quadrant or this quadrant? And if so, put it in the exact place it should be and take whatever is there already and move it back into that place. So that's what I want to do. It's not that difficult. I'm going to walk you through every step. Okay, so let's just put these back in the right place so we don't get confused, although it won't matter very, very soon, of course. So we can just put shape 4 here and shape 1 here just to keep our confusion, because we have them all mapped out here. So I want to make sure. So shape 3 should go here and shape 4 should go here. Okay, that's fine for now. Of course, it won't matter very soon once we write the macro. Now that we've got the first macro, we're going to write our last macro, our second and last macro. And that macro is going to take care of all the positioning for us. So let's do that right now. And I'll keep a space because we're going to add that macro right in here once we write it. So again, let's just call it check for move, because that's all we're doing is we're really checking for movement. And this, we want to know, has the user moved it? Sub check for move. And that's what we're really doing. We're going to focus on sheet 1, of course. So, but we need to dimension a lot of variables because I really want to know. I want to know position. I want to know the selected shape name. I want to know all. Like I want to know the new position. I want to know the old position. So we really want a lot of information put into variables. So let's dimension all those variables now. And we're gonna run a count. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to run a large count, and it's going to keep looping through this count. And it won't tie up the machine because we're going to use do events, and I'll explain that a little bit later on, but it won't tie up. So basically, during this count, this running count, we're going to check to see if the user has made a change. If the user hasn't made a change, continue with the count. So let's just take a look at that now. Dim count number as long. And I also want to know, again, the position change is long. Position change, and I'll explain that coming up, as long. Also, I want to know the shape row. Remember, we have the shape row. That's important. So, or the position row located in B5. So we want, let's call it shape row as long. And of course, the position row, as I just mentioned, position row as long. Okay, so those are all the long variables, and I want to know some string variables. So again, dimension, the selected, I want to know the selected shape cell. Shape cell. What is that shape cell? That's going to be in B4. Selected shape cell. I want to know that as a string. And also, I want to know a new top. Remember, we're going to keep track of new location and old location a lot. So I need to know the new top location. We'll call it new top as string. And I also want to know the new location shape. I want to know that. That's really important as a string. Also, we need the old left. I wanted some doubles because double would be for decimal. So we need to keep track of those left and top positions. So to mention the old left position as double. And also I need to know the top position, the old top position as double. Okay, so those things we need to, and also the existing, the left position as double, and the top position as double. Top position as double. Okay, that's gonna do. We have a few more to do. I think we're okay. And then of course I want one more range. So we need to know that we're going to be looking for the position. We need to search for a position, whether it's in one of those 4 positions. So we need to dimension the found position as a range. Okay, good. I think that's it for this. And then we're going to focus on with sheet 1. So with sheet 1. And notice how it automates to end with. Did you see that? How it automated that? I use AutoHotkey for that, a free software. So you can use Google search and just check AutoHotkey. It's going to help us automate things. So I do that a lot. Okay, again, the first thing what I want to do is I want to get some information into those variables. We need to know the selected shape. We know that's in B1. So let's do that now. The selected shape, of course, that is a string. Selected shape as string. We need to know that we need to add that in. And also just when we need the old location, update the new location and old location. That should be fine as string. So we can put those in, and we're going to need to know those. That's fine. Okay, so the selected shape, we know that is located in B1. B1 is value. That's going to be our selected shape name. And we also want to know the old left position. The old left position, we've already defined that as a double. So that's going to be in B2 equals the range. B2 is going to locate that. That's our old left position. We also, of course, need our old top position. Old top position. B3. It's located that. Okay. All right. That's our old top position because we want to keep track of those positions. Got to keep track of everything here. And also, of course, the old location is in B4. So old location, we've defined that as a string, and that's located in B4 here. Old cell location in B4. Okay, so now we're ready to go. So what do we need to do? What I want to do is I want to make sure that B1 must contain a value. If B1 is empty, there's nothing we can do. We don't have a selected shape. So let's write that in right now. If dot range B1 dot value equals empty, then end. Nothing we can do. Okay, so moving on. Now what we need to do is we need to determine, has the shape in B1, has it moved from its original location? So we need to check for that. So let's do that. Let's write an if-then statement to see if it has. If, we need to check if it's moved from the top or the left position. If dot shapes, and we have it selected shape, we've already defined it up here based on B1. Select dot left does not equal the old left position, or has it moved from the left or has it moved from the top. Dot shapes, selected shape dot top, right? Its top position does not equal old top position, right? We need to check. Then we need to do something. Then there's a lot, right? If it hasn't not moved, there's nothing we need to do, right? There's nothing we need to do. If we haven't moved it, we're just going to skip everything. In fact, we're going to add a loop in here, but I'll add it in a little bit later on so that I can just show you what's going on. Okay, so assuming that it has moved, then we want to do some things, right? We want to change it. So first of all, what I need to do is, the first thing I want to do is, has it moved to a new quadrant? Has it moved here, here, or here? Or has it just moved a little bit here, here, here? So what I want to do is I want to check based on where it's been moved to. What is its new location? Is it all the way over here? Is it here? Is it here? Or is it just moved a little bit here? So we can do that with additional if-then statements. So let's write that now. We're going to check for quadrant move. Okay, and you can have as many different areas as you want, as many different zones as you want. That's fine. So you can create multiple. You can create 6 or 10 or whatever. If dot shapes selected shape dot top is less than what? If it's less than, let's say our top quadrant is 12, right? So what if it's less than 12? If it's greater than 12, then they've moved it to lower. If it's above that, we can use, so row 12 is our defining, right? G12 and J12 is our lower area. So what if it's above 12? If that top step is above it, we're going to make it up here. So I want to make that upper or lower. I want to define upper or lower. Below 12 is lower. Above 12 is upper. So let's define that, because that's going to help us. I need to know whether it's upper left, upper right, lower left, or lower right. That's what I need to know. I need to determine where. And I can do that based on the position they've moved it to. So if the top is less than dot range, and you can use anything, you can use any cell, you can use A12, B12, it doesn't matter, just 12 is the top position is less than, let's just use for similarity, G12 dot top, right? We want dot top. Then what do we want to do? Then the new top, okay, that's an equal, so we're going to combine that, equals upper. It's either going to be upper or lower. Then it's upper, right? Because it's less than 12, right? Less than 12 row. Otherwise, it would be lower. Otherwise, else, new top equals lower. So we're defining it and we're basing it based on text, lower. Why do we want to do that? Because what I want to do is I want to get this. I want to get one of these 4. I want to combine it. Next thing, we're going to test for left or right. And then I'm going to put the text in left or right. So then once I give the combined text upper left, upper right, lower left, or lower, I'll be able to match it, search it, and I'll know what cell it belongs in. So I'll show you that. It's really cool. Okay, so let's bring it over so we have a little more space to work with here. Okay, so if the selected shape is less than the 12, basically row 12, then it's called the new top is upper. We know it's supposed to be located in the upper, else it's going to be located in lower. So we've got the top, we've got the upper or lower figured out, but we haven't figured out the left or right yet. So let's do that right now. If dot shapes selected shape dot left is less than what? You can probably figure it out here. Less than what? We're looking for basically I, right? I is going to be, if it's left of I, then it's going to be left. So we can probably use I for that. So let's write that in. Dot range, and we can use any, remember, any row, it doesn't matter. I1 is fine, I1. Dot left, focus on dot left. So if it's less than the left of that, then we know it's going to be left. Otherwise, it's going to be right. Then new left, we've already defined new left as a string. New left as a string. Then new left equals, I think we have to do, equals left. Else new left equals right. Great. Now we've defined whether exactly what quadrant by either one of those two options. I think we need to add additional here. So we need to have new left as string. We have new top. New top as string. We need those as well. And also we need one more actually. We're going to need new top and new top position as string. Need those as well. Okay, so we've got those handled. We can actually write them. Actually, let's write them down here. Dimension. Okay, so we can see everything in one. So we've got a lot of them. Maybe we'll add a few more. So now we've defined whether the location is, of course, if it's an upper or lower. Now all we need to do is combine those two. So now that we have that, what I want to do is I want to look for it based on that. So what we can do is we set a range called found position. So set found position equal to, what do I want to do? I want to look it up. I want to look up upper left, or I'm going to find what row it's located here. So you can create any different kinds. Equals, what is it going to equal? Dot range A9 through A12. That's the range that we're looking it up. We're looking up, and it's not dot value, right? Dot find. What am I looking for? I'm looking for new top and space, right? And the space, because there's a space, and the new left, right? So I'm going to look for new top through new left. So basically I'm looking for upper left, upper right, lower left, or lower right. So that's what I'm looking for. Now what if it's found? If it's found, I need to do something. Okay, what do I want? I want to find, I want to locate what shape is there and what cell is there. So we can do that. If not found position is nothing, then it's found. So what do we want to do? Then we know the row. So now that I know it's, but what I want to do is I want to find out if this, let's just say J12 here, is it the same position? Is it the same as this? Is it the same as B4? If it's found and it's the same position, that means it's an incremental move. It means we haven't moved it very much. So the first thing I want to check for is it a little bit of a small move. If it's a small move, I want to reposition it back in there. So how can we do that? Well, we can just check. So we can do something like this. If found position row equals B5. Remember, our found position row is already located in B5. So equals, remember, our found position row is in B5. Dot range B5. Then it's an incremental move back into its original position. Else it would be, let's call that a quadrant move. Else quadrant move, and switch shapes, right? We want to switch in that case. Otherwise we don't want. Okay, now that we know it's an incremental move, we want to move it back. So how do we do that? All we need to do, we already have the original left and we already have the original top position. So all we need to do is move it back. But we don't know, we don't want to necessarily move it back. I want to move it back on basically on B4, the top left side. I want to move it back to whatever the original position is. In this case, it's located in B4. So how can we do that? So we just say dot shapes, selected shape dot left equals dot range B4, the value of B4, dot range B4 is where located, B4 dot value dot left. So basically it's going to be the left position of J12, the left position. We're going to do the same thing, but it's going to move it back to the left and back to the top. So all we need to do is copy this and then just change this to top. So it's going to move it back to its original position, whatever's in B4. Okay, so good. Now we have that. So that's all we need to do to move it back into its original place. But what if we've actually moved a quadrant? In that case, what I want to do is I want to actually replace what is there and move it to the original place. So the first thing I want to do is move it to its new place. And then what I want to do is whatever is there, I want to move it back into whatever was previously. So basically, I just want to switch out the shapes. So else there's been a quadrant move. So we have a new location. So let's set the new location. The new location is going to be located where? It's going to be basically whatever's in. So we know the new location. We already found the right place. So the new location is going to be in our found, whatever is J5, G12. So it's going to be in that found row right there. So we can write it using that found row. So the new location equals dot range C and the found position dot row. That's going to be it. The new location equals the found position dot row. Now that we have the new location, we can also want the new left position and the new top position. So we can add those in too, because that's going to be able to help us, especially when we increment. So new left position is equal to dot range. Now that we have the new location, we can just put in using new location. We've got the range right now. Dot, what is that? Dot left. Okay, so now we have the new location of the left position. Now all we need to do is get the top position again. So we could do new top position, copy, paste this down here. The new top position is equal to the top. You can probably figure it out. Top position equals dot top. So that's going to give us our new top, our new left. So we know exactly where to place that right there. Okay, so once we have that, we also want to know what the shape is. I want to know what shape is currently there. If I move this down here, I need to know what shape is already here. I need to know what shape is already in that position. Well, our shape is right here. Whatever our shape is going to be right here. So B and the found row is going to tell us exactly what shape is already there, because I need to move that back. So we can do that with just one line of code. So our new location shape is equal to dot range B and the found row, B and the found position row, and found position dot row. So now we have that. So that's the new location shape, right? Because that's our new location. It's what is already in there, existing shape. That's the existing shape that's in that location, because we need to move it on out of there and put it into a brand new location wherever it was previously. So now that we have defined that new location shape, we can then move it over. So dot shapes, the selected shape. Now what I want to do is I want to take that selected shape and I want to move it exactly in the right place. The user's already moved it, but they don't move it in the exact right place. We want to place it right in the exact shape. So dot left is equal to the new left position. We've already defined the new left position right here. So we know the left position. So now all we need to do is we define set new left position. Okay, now the new top position. Dot shapes, again, selected shape. Dot top in this case equals new top position. Set new top position. Okay, that's going to position the shape exactly where we want it. The user has moved it in the general area, but we are going to use VBA to position it exactly in the right place. Now that we have that, now what I want to do is I want to set the shape that's already there back into the old position place. So how do we do that? Well, we can do that with very simply just putting it back in there. So let's do that right now. Dot shapes, right? What is the shape? Dot shapes. We're focused on the new location shape. Dot left, what is that position? Equals basically what's in B4. Whatever's in B4 is the selected location. So dot range B4 dot value, that's the value, but I want to wrap that in there. I want the left position of that. Dot range, I want the left position of that. So how do we get that? So dot range, we're going to put that embedded in, and then this dot left. But we've already defined B4, haven't we? So we can use that. B4 we know is the old location. So let's just put in old location dot left, and then we need to do the same thing but dot top, right? We're going to use the same top, the same left, and in fact we're going to build this out. I'm going to replace this in just a moment because we want an actual visual aspect. I want to show it moving, but this is going to be so quick. We're going to change this up a little bit after we get it working. Okay, so we've got that there. Okay, I like that so far. We got a little bit more to build out on it because we're going to make it, but that's going to be good for now. Let's add in a little bit more cleanup code. So first thing I want to do is dot range. I want to clear the contents of B1. B1, that's the last thing we want to do. Dot clear contents, because we don't want to clear. We finished with the shape, so we want to clear out B1, and I want to select basically just another cell, something like dot range, because I want to unselect whatever shapes. Let's say F3 dot select. So I just want to select outside of whatever shape, and maybe we'll add in some. I want to refresh the screen. Application dot screen updating equals true. That's going to refresh, especially when we do drag and drop. That's going to help. And then exit the sub. We can exit sub out of there. Okay, that's good. Let's take a quick look over here. This should be dot row, right? We're focused on row. If found position dot row is B5, not range. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Let me just run that code and see. New left position variable not defined. We do need to have that. So let's make sure we have new top and new left position. Both of those are important. You can add that down here. New left position as double. Okay, new left position as double. All right, let's run that up. New location shape. Okay, we need that as a string. We'll add that here. New location shape as a string. Okay, good. We just got to get in all those variables. Okay, good. We don't need this. Okay. All right, and if here we need to close that loop, let's take a look and run that now. Okay, looks good. Everything's going good. Okay, so basically what I want to do is when I select them, I want to basically run this loop. So when we select it, that's what I want to happen. But we want to run this code automatically when we select it. So how do we do that so that it runs automatically? And how do we do it so that it runs continuously? Well, let's add in a little bit of a loop to do that. The first thing I want to do is when I select the shape, I want to run this macro. So I'm going to copy this macro. I'm going to put it right in here. But I want to continue to run this macro over and over. I want to loop through this macro until something happens, or at least for a large account. So how do we do that? Well, we can add in a loop for that. So let's do that right now. We can add that in right here. So what I want to do is once we've set all the variables, I want to start running a loop. And it should look something like this. For count number equals 1 to 1, let's just say 100,000. I want a large number here because I want it to run continuously. And then what I want to make sure is I want to be able to do other things during this. So the best way to do that is to add do events. It's going to allow a user to do other things while the macro is running. It'll run behind the scenes, and that's exactly what I want. And then I also want to skip out. Remember, in case B1 is empty, it can skip out. It's going to end. So that way, when it actually runs, B1 gets cleared out and then it stops running. But we need to close that loop, and we can do that right about here. Right about here, say next count number. So that's going to continue to run our loop. Okay, let's save our code. And now let's try to select on something and see if there's any issue. Now let's move it a little bit and see how it moved it right back in the position. Do the same thing here. Move it. It's moving it. Now what if I want to move it over here? Wow, that works nice. That's almost perfect. That's almost the way I want. Oh, a little bit error there. We got to fix that. And all we need to do is just make sure that we set the initial positions properly. So let's do that. Let's put in the initial positions. What is this? This is shape 4. So let's put in shape 4 here. Okay, we need to put in the original positions properly so that we can do it. And what is this? Let's make sure that we have this put in. Now we know that shape 3 is located in the 3rd position. That's right. And what is this? Shape 4, we want to put this in the 1 position, right here. So I want to put this in the 1 position right here. And then we can update those. All right, let's put in the right position, shape 1 and shape 4. Now what we need to do is let's just pause the code, make sure everything's in the right location before we start out, and that way it's going to help us. So shape 4 should be down here. Give us that original. And we still have to add a little bit more code in to make this work, probably 2 and 1. Okay, so now we have them all in the right quadrants, properly positioned right here. Okay, so that's exactly what I want. Let's position them exactly the way they should be. We can use the macro to do it. It's already working right now. Once we reset the code, let's go ahead and reset this. And now let's get everything in the right position here, exactly as it should, making sure that all of our shape 2, shape 3, okay, so now everything's positioned incrementally and we got it all in the right positions. Okay, good. So we have that there, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that when we change a location, this has to update properly too. So how do we get that? How do we get our new table to update properly so we can replace the positions here? So that's what we need to do. We can do that with just a few lines of code. So let's go back into that and add it down here. Once the shapes have moved, remember they've moved, we've switched shapes. So down here we need to put in those new positions. So let's do that. We're going to focus on B, right? Column B dot range B, and we need to know one more thing. We need to know the position row right here. So the position row, we've already defined it, equals dot range B5. I want to know that. Remember, B5. That's our position row. When we select a shape, it's going to know what row it's in. That's our old position row. Old position row. That's important because we need to know what replace. Okay, so we've got that down here. So now let's update here. B and what? B and our found position dot row. Remember, that's the new row, right? Found position row equals our new location dot value now equals our selected shape. Selected, that's the original shape that we selected, putting the original shape in the new location. In the new location, add shape to new location. Okay, so now that we've added the shape, now all we need to do is add the existing shape to the updated location, right? So we're kind of just switching out those shapes. So all we need to do again, dot range B, but this time, what is it? This is going to be our position, but this is our original row. Position row dot value is going to be equal to what? Equals our new location shape. New location shape. That's the shape that we've defined right here. Our new shape, which is the shape that was in the position we moved. Add new shape, or I should say new location, to old location. Old location. So we basically have old location, a new location, and we're going to do that. Okay, good. So let's take a look at that. Let's save our work and make sure that we're getting those replaced. So if I take 1 and replace it into 4, and let's fix that. It should be dot range, obviously, not shapes. Okay, so fix that. That'll work. Okay, let's take a look at that. Good. Now we have shape 4 and shape 1 have reversed. That's what I want. And if I switch it back again, switching it back, perfect. Good. We're almost there. What else do we want to add? I want to add a little visual. I want it to slide. I want to show a nice visual. So it's moving. I don't want it to be so quick. I want it to be a little bit slower so I can see it. Add a visual effect. How can we do that? We can use that using an increment so the new shape will move into the old location. How do we do that incrementally? Well, we can use the for next loop to use that. So let's do just that. We need to set an increment. I want to know how much. Let's say we move it over 20 times. Let's say we create a loop 20 different times. So the left increment, I need to know how much to move it into the left increment is going to equal, basically we need to know the difference between the old left position and the new left position. So old left position minus the new left position. So I need to know the difference between those two, and then divided by 20 because we're going to increment it 20 times. So again, the increment, how much? If it's 100 pixels over and we are moving it over, we need to know that increment would be 5. So we're moving it 5 pixels 20 different times to get us to make up for that 100. I need to do the same thing for the top. So the top increment would be equal to, you can pretty much imagine the old top position minus, and so if it's a negative number 2, the new top position. And again, we're going to divide that by 20. Now that we have the increment level, now what I want to do is I want to write that position change into a group. So for position change, hopefully I've defined all these, change equals 1, 2, in fact, we're going to do one more, 21. That way it's going to not only do it, it's going to make sure it's exactly the right area. Next, close our loop, position change. Okay, so let's write in. So now what I want to do is I want to increment that left position change 20 different times so that it moves into the right place, but incrementally. Dot shapes, new location shape. We're focused on that new shape, remember, new shape. Dot left is equal to the left position, and that left position is defined. So right here, the left position is the original left position. It's going to start out in the left position, the original left position. Okay, now that we have our loop, we also need one more thing. Actually, the left position, we want to start it out is equal to the new left position, right? I want to start it out at the new place and then move it to the old place, basically. And the top position is going to be equal to the new top position. So it's starting out in one place and it's moving to the old place. So we got to give it a starting position. So now that we have that, now we can increment that. So dot shapes, new location shape dot left is equal to the left position. And then we're just going to increase that left and the top. Dot shapes, new location shape. In this case, of course, dot top is going to be equal to, of course, the top position. Now all we need to do is increment it one by one. So the left position is going to grow. Left position, or if it's a negative number, of course, it'll reduce, equals the left position plus the left increment. Left increment. So whatever that, if that increment's a negative number, it's going to reduce. If it's positive, it'll increase. And again, the top position is equal to the top position plus the top increment. So that's going to work good. And also what I want to do is I want to wait a little bit. It'll be too fast if we just run it. So let's add a little bit of wait. Application dot wait. And then how much? Now let's just say plus dot, let's put in milliseconds, dot 0.00001. Okay, I think that'll cover it. So that's going to slow it down a little bit. Now let's save our work and see if we have any issues or any variables that we need to define more possibly. Okay, left increment. We need to do top and left increment as double. We want to make sure we get those down. So those are important. So many, I forgot. Left increment as double. and top increment as double. Okay, let's see if that works. Got to remember to put those variables in. Okay, that looks good. No errors on that. Okay, let's take a look at that. Moving it over now here, bringing it over here. Nice. Let's do that again. Make sure it works. That's exactly what I want. You see how it now slides over? All right, that's exactly what I want. And you can speed it up or slow it down based on the weight now. Great, so that's how we get our dragon out. All we need to do is select it and it moves it right over. Good, that's exactly what we want. Now, of course, I also promised to show you how we could implement this on a previous application that we did. And let's pull that up just so I can show you exactly. It's just a few lines in code. That was the Task Manager Part 3. If you missed this training, it is an awesome training. And the idea behind this was, we can bring this up here, we don't need this. The idea behind this is when we drag something over to a certain area, I want it to move automatically. It doesn't. And at the time, I hadn't developed it, so you have to select something else for it to move, but I wanted to do it automatically. So when I move it, I want it to update automatically. How do we do that? Let's do it this. And of course, what I want you to do, pay special attention because I want you to write your own code. I'm not going to make this particular update available on download because it's so simple to write. You can do it yourself. So let's go into it and see just how we did that. Now, this particular application, the Task Manager, if you didn't catch it, of course, just look up Task Manager. It was a 3-part series. Fantastic. You'll love it. So task update. So again, as you can see, we have a select task here. And so in a task update, 2 different macros, pretty similar to what we've done, but I want to add additional to that. So how do we do that? And all we really need to do is just add a little bit. So again, what I'm going to do is when we select a specific task, what I want to do is actually run another macro also. So how do we do that? So when I run this macro, select a task, that's the macro that's assigned to this shape, right? If we right click that, click assign macro, it's select task. So now what I want to do to update that is just update the code and add that in and then write a little bit of code. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy this and I'm going to add this right in here. So that's going to run this task update. So now all I need to do is make a few changes inside this code. So how do we do that? Well, after we've defined the task row, and of course I go through this training, and we're going to run that same count. And again, we're going to ask it. So let's do that. Let's add and define that decimal. Let's call it count number as long because we're going to run that count number as long. And now here down inside the code, after the task row, again, I am going to for count number equals, again, 1 to 100,000. That's good enough there, right there. It's long enough. And then again, make sure we add in the do events, not do loop, just do events. And then we can get rid of this loop. That's just some automated text we don't need. Okay, but I do want to, before I need to do it, I do want to make sure that in this task manager, let's pull up the right application here so we can see it. I do want to make sure that this, in this case, our selected shape's located in B2. So that's one. If B2 becomes empty, we need to exit out of that. So let's write in that right now, because as soon as this movement, B2 is going to be cleared. So that's the first thing we want to exit out. So if .range B2.value equals empty, then end. It's going to then end. That's going to exit out everything else. So that's pretty much set. So now what do I want to do? Now I want to do, actually, I want to know in B5 or B6 the left position. So let's write additional code just a little bit. When we select it, I want to know some positions. I want to know the top and the left position. Let's put that in B5 and B6. So when we select the task, I want to know, because I need to know if it's been changed or not. So why don't we do that? Let's just write in a little bit right here. I'm going to put in .range B5 .value equals, what's it going to equal? .shapes. We already have defined the task ID. Task ID, we know that, right? We've defined the task ID. It's going to be the name of the task. .left. So I want to put in that left position. And again, I want to put in B6 the top position. B6 is going to be equal to .shapes task ID, and this time top, because I want to know if it's been moved position. So now all we need to do is check. So now we just need to check. So now we have B5 and B6 updated there. So all we need to do in our code here is run a check. If there's been a change in the left or the top position, so we just write a little bit of a if-then statement. If .shapes, we've already defined the task ID here, so we can do that. Shapes task ID dot left does not equal dot range B5 value, or dot shapes task ID dot top does not equal, of course, B6. B6 value is the top. Then we know the user has made a change. Then we do all of this code, right? Otherwise we don't. So now otherwise we can get out of all of that. So let's close our loop. Let's use and if. So we don't want to do anything if they haven't changed. And then we'll continue our loop. Next count number. So we're going to keep looping through this until the user has made a change. So we're going to keep looping and looping and looping. We're using do events so that we'll be able to use anything else. And let's save this and test it out. So now when I move this variable not defined, even when I did remember, I didn't spell it right. Okay, count number. Okay, let's take a look at that now. Now we've selected it. Now when we move it, it moves automatically. I didn't do anything else. Move it to a different day, and we'll let the loop continue. And now we don't have to click anything else. It moves automatically by itself, and the appointment is rescheduled no matter when we do it. All right, great. I'm glad I got to show you this, including the Task Manager update bonus. I'm really glad you stayed for that. In this training, we showed you how to automatically drag and drop shapes. You can use this in any way, shape, or form, on scheduling, on dashboards. I'd love to see your creativity. Put your comments down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think or any other applications that I can bring to you. Thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.